So welcome. This is Sachin doing something I've never done before, actually, which is predicting tennis. To give you some background, I've been a tennis fan for more than at this point, I think it's more than 20 years. I think the first time I watched tennis was as part of the Sydney Olympics in 2000. If my memory serves me correctly, I just got into doubles at that point. I think there was this guy, Todd Woodbridge, and then of course I'm Indian, so the duo of Mahesh Bhupathi and Leander Paes were super popular back in the day. So I started watching tennis around then. Then have been watching for over watching and playing for over 20 years. Perhaps playing for 15 years, but you get the point. So I decided to do some predictions for Wimbledon 2022. I've been pretty decent with my predictions in the past. Just thought I'd try my hand out of this and see how it works. So the way I'm going to do my predictions is uh, we're going to look at people people in my opinion, uh, who are the top six contenders for winning this thing. And it's going to go from least likely to most likely. And I'm going to start off with a lot of controversy, as you will see, who I think is the least likely of the six contenders to win. And then we move from there to the most likely to win. So, uh, and I will also as contradictory as it sounds, I'm also going to tell you my gut feeling, despite me putting someone as the most likely, what I think could happen or what my gut feeling about this entire thing is. And it's going to sound outlandish at first, but I like to think that mm I'm able to separate out emotion from facts. And usually, I'll give you an example. People were super hyper emotional about Carlos Alcaraz going into the French Open. And my first advice to them was, hey, this kid's not even had his first pressure match. And I actually, believe it or not, predicted Alexander Zverev, who has been in such situations many, many times before, and who was kind of like giving these sound bites before French Open that he was annoyed by Carlos Alcaraz being hyped. I predicted Zverev to beat Alcaraz, and lo and behold, that's what happened. Um, of course, I retain the ability to be massively wrong. I did predict Djokovic to beat Nadal, which as we saw was not the case, and he just took a massive beating. So not a massive beating, but you know what I mean. Um, so I could be like completely wrong, but I've been pretty good with calling the new generation or the patterns with the new generation. And I'm going to try to keep my emotion or the general emotion of the tennis world out of this, um, and try to gauge this objectively, right? So let's start with who I think is the least likely of my top six contenders to win the Wimbledon 2022, and it's going to completely surprise you. And it's this man on screen, Rafael Nadal. Um, so below, you can see his draw. Uh, Rafael Nadal going into Wimbledon 2022 is, of course, chasing a calendar slam, a historic calendar slam. He's won the Australian Open and he's won the French Open. Um, he is looking to win Wimbledon for the third time, if I remember right, because he won in 2008, he won in 2010. Hasn't had great success since. Most notably, he got out in 2012 against Lucas Rosol, 2013 against Steve Darcy, 2014 against Nick Kyrgios, 2015 against Dustin Brown, and 2017 against that Austrian dude, Jürgen Melzer. Jürgen Melzer, right? So in 2018, I think he had this match against Djokovic, which went on forever, and he lost in the fifth set. 2019, I think he lost to Federer, and I don't think he played 2021. So here we are. This is so Nadal's recent patterns, despite what everyone would like to believe, and everyone would really like a calendar slam, right? Everyone wants to see it. I was in Flushing Meadows, wanting Novak to win, and of course Daniil Medvedev won. Everyone wants to see a calendar slam in their lifetime, right? But for me, if history is anything to go by, Nadal is very vulnerable in the first week of Wimbledon lately. Sure, he's made the semifinals of last two, losing to Djokovic and Federer, but At the same time, you got to think about Rafa's body, right? Rafa's body has been catching up to him lately, and that combined with the fact that it's a foot injury and you're running on grass. He's not played any warm up tournaments, and look at his draw, right? I'll be honest, I do not know who Cerundolo is, uh, but Sam Querrey is literally the guy who disappears for the rest of the year and pops up in Wimbledon, right? Like he's a Wimbledon specialist. He's given like if I remember right, there's this famous clip of Judy Murray laughing very, very widely when Sam Querrey beat the great Novak Djokovic in 2016, right? So Sam Querrey is no joke. And Sam Querrey specializes or he lives every year just to play Wimbledon. So Sam Querrey is not going to be a straightforward match for Nadal. He's probably going to still win because Sam Querrey is pretty old himself. But a peak Sam Querrey against Rafael Nadal, this Rafael Nadal with his foot would have been a good match, I believe. Uh, Lorenzo Sonego, I believe that it looks a tough match on paper, but Sonego is like very up and down, and on grass, I'm not sure about Sonego, so Nadal should be able to get through it, right? But my main problem with Nadal's chances is what comes next. Marin Cilic. Everyone who's been watching tennis recently has been completely blown away by the resurgence of Marin Cilic. Marin Cilic came to when no one expected him to. He came to the semifinal of Roland Garros, and he was there. He was right there in beating Casper Ruud. I watched Chilic's entire run. I saw him decimate people. I saw him decimate Medvedev, for example, like he was a club player, right? But then again, you could say Medvedev on clay. How good is he really? And then he went ahead. I remember there was an epic quarterfinal in which Cilic went to 5 sets. I was it Holger Rune? Uh, no, probably not Holger Rune, right? But I can't quite recall who it was. But like Cilic went 5 sets in the uh, oh, it was Andrei Rublev, of course. So he went 5 sets against Rublev in the quarterfinal, and in the semifinal, he lost to Casper Ruud after running out of steam, right? So Marin Cilic, on the other hand, he's got a big serve. Like he's one of those. He's like an OG Zverev. He's got like a 130 mile per hour serve on grass, and he's a previous Wimbledon finalist. Lost very memorably against Roger Federer in 2017. He had these foot blisters, and there's a very infamous image of him crying, saying, "Why is this happening to me in the biggest moment of my life?" Right. So Cilic is not a joke. Marin Cilic against Rafa on grass. If I were to predict an upset, how much of an upset would that really be, though? Like Cilic on grass is going to be Rafa's big test, right? In the fourth round. In the quarterfinal, he would face either Felix Auger-Aliassime or Taylor Fritz if the draw holds. We all know Fritz famously beat him in either it's in Indian Wells because I was going to go see that match actually in California, but didn't get to go in the end. So Marin Cilic, followed by Taylor Fritz or Felix Auger-Aliassime, who of course memorably took Rafa to 5 sets in Roland Garros, and everybody's like everybody wants to everybody's like focused on uh, Felix on grass. Everybody's like super excited for it. He has an all-round game, but Felix's mental game has never really sat well with me. And finally, there's Berrettini or Tsitsipas in the semifinal. Another tricky matchups, more tricky matchups for Rafa. It might look like historically he's like completely pummeled those two, but he's they could be trouble. And then of course he's got to beat Djokovic, Alcaraz, or Hurkacz in the final. Rafa. So the next thing I'm going to go over is the head-to-head for Rafa. Um, so I'm going to read out the head-to-heads against Djokovic. He's 29 down and 2-2 on grass. And the last time they played on grass was, if I'm not wrong, that Wimbledon semifinal that I mentioned that Djokovic edged out Rafa in. Against Carlos Alcaraz, he's 2-1 and they've never played on grass. Against Hubert Hurkacz, he's never played. Against Stefanos Tsitsipas, he's 7-2 up. But love on the love all on the on grass court head to heads, and against Matteo Berrettini he's too love. Berrettini and Tsitsipas do face a massive disadvantage against Rafa in the sense that the ball bounces so high to their backhand, and those two infamously have a weakness on the backhand side. Uh, Hubi Hurkacz, on the other hand, has never played Rafa. That would be an interesting matchup. Novak clearly has the upper hand on him over the grass, but you could argue that Novak's not had enough match practice in this entire year with all the things that are going on. So it's going to be tricky for Novak. And Carlos Alcaraz, I believe, they played two times and three times, and Rafa's won twice. But in grass, I would slightly pick the young Alcaraz over the aging Nadal. Like prime Nadal would of course like wipe every one of these players except Djokovic. Uh, uh, but like with Rafa's foot being what it is, and like with everything that's going on in the world, I think Rafa's the least likely. If I am to predict, I'm gonna again like be super objective, be non-emotional with the calendar Grand Slam and everything that's going on, and everybody wants Rafa to win. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that Marin Cilic, if he makes it to the fourth round and plays Rafael Nadal in the fourth round, I think Marin Cilic's gonna knock Rafa out. It's a bold prediction. You tune in for bold predictions, you have a bold prediction right there. So we'll move on. The next one won't be as lengthy, but like I'll try to keep it like short. The next contender we have is this guy, Stefanos Tsitsipas. Stefanos Tsitsipas is a very hard one to understand in general. I know, cringy Instagram quotes aside, he's generally a very hard player to understand because when he was playing like a dream in 2021 clay court season, I expected this guy to take off and completely win things left, right, and center. But then he went and lost to Francis Tiafoe in the first round of Wimbledon. I just couldn't explain it. He just made the final of Wimbledon, of French Open, gotten so close to beating Novak Djokovic. He had won like Monte Carlo. He was on a roll, um, and then he just went and lost to Tiafoe in the first round, and it was such a dampener. And in the U.S. Open, he again I believe that he lost to Alcaraz in the U.S. Open, if I'm not wrong. And then like he in the Australian Open, the Medvedev just completely has owns him like anywhere outside clay. So Tsitsipas has been like so hard to understand because he's got all the gifts to be the top grass court player that he could be. Right, he has got a big serve. He's got a great forehand. His backhand's not the best. He doesn't have a slice, so those low balls on grass are very hard to get for him. But at the same time, with a serve and forehand like Tsitsipas, you can he's 6'5", 6'6". You can never discount a guy like that, right? In competition, you can never discount somebody who's 6'5", a killer forehand, and a big serve, relatively big serve. But for me, it's so hard to get Tsitsipas. He just won the Mallorca Open as we speak, but he's also been losing in like either Halle or Stuttgart. I can't quite remember, but he didn't win any other titles. He's been like kind of meh, I would say, in the grass court season. He said like after his shock French Open loss to Holger Rune, he said that he's going to go away and play grass court tennis. He played grass court tennis. Aside from beating up kids in Mallorca, um, no offense to Roberto Batista Agut, but he didn't like the field wasn't like super strong. Medvedev lost, so it wasn't like he didn't really get any test going. Um, so Stefanos is very hard to judge, but in my opinion, just his body, right? Just his body is just a stronger body than Rafa's right now. Rafa's body is creaking on the foot, it's grass, etc., etc. So for me, Tsitsipas is slightly ahead of Rafa. Both are like not likely to win Wimbledon if we take emotion out of it. And Tsitsipas is my fifth contender. Let's look at his draw. It has this guy Richard. I've never heard of him. Thompson could be a decent match, but you know Stefanos is an incredibly gifted player. Even on his worst day, he's going to beat Thompson. Kyrgios could be very interesting, but you know Nick Kyrgios, there is more chance of predicting the weather than like predicting which Nick Kyrgios will turn up, right? So Nick Kyrgios is one of those things that if he does turn up, he could beat Tsitsipas, but like I'm going to go with the odds and say that Kyrgios, first of all, if he does make, I don't know if he'll make it to the third round, but if he does make it to the third round, sure, it's going to be a test. Um, sure. So Nick Kyrgios is going to be a test. Shapovalov, another player who made the semifinal of last year's Wimbledon, nearly beat Djokovic, if I remember right. Um, and he Chapo again, like he just like loses random matches. Lost to Holger Rune in the first round of French Open, if I'm not wrong. And Shapovalov making it to the fourth round. If he does make it, it's going to be single-handed backhand versus a single-handed lefty backhand. It's going to be a treat to watch, but I believe that this is the year that Tsitsipas is going to be more determined. But after this comes the tricky part. So he's got Berrettini, Nadal or Felix or Fritz, and Djokovic or Alcaraz or Hurkacz, right? So if he's going to play Berrettini, directly, Stefanos does have the edge over Berrettini. In fact, like he leads their head to head 2-0. Uh, it's going to be a forehand fest. And Tsitsipas's forehand, even though Berrettini's forehand is like 9 out of 10, Tsitsipas can match him on the forehand. Berrettini's backhand is a well-known issue, but Tsitsipas's backhand is also a well-known issue. It doesn't have the slice. So how much will Berrettini's backhand on the on grass with that extra zip be effective against Tsitsipas single-handed backhand? It's going to be a close match. But I think if you put a gun to my head, I would back Stefanos on talent, but I would back Berrettini on resilience, mental resilience. Berrettini is a nice, cool guy, whereas Tsitsipas gets a bit emotional, even though he doesn't try to show it. He tries not to show it. Um, it's still like you can see that Stefanos always is feeling it, right? Um, so the two of them, it's going to be a tough match. If he does face Nadal in the semifinal, I would back Rafa over Tsitsipas if Rafa gets that far. And finally, in the final, Djokovic, Alcaraz, and Hurkacz. Out of them, he has the best chance of beating Hubert Hurkacz, but we never know. Hubi's been playing like a dream. He like completely trashed Medvedev the other day, and like Hubi's like somebody that everybody underestimates. So you never know. Carlos Alcaraz has the wood over Tsitsipas in every court so far. They've played 3 times, and Tsitsipas has won. Tsitsipas has won none of them. Alcaraz has completely obliterated him in all of them. Something about Alcaraz's game completely puts Tsitsipas off. And finally, Novak Djokovic on grass is going to beat Tsitsipas unless Djokovic's lack of physical fitness starts showing. But Djokovic is, if he's getting to a final of Wimbledon and he's playing Tsitsipas, you should back Djokovic. But then again, like with a 35-year-old versus 25-year-old, Tsitsipas does have age going for him. But Stefanos is my number 5 contender to win Wimbledon. Let's go to number 4. Number 4 is this guy, Carlos Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz has had a breakthrough year. Everybody was super high on the Alcaraz hype train. He won Miami, won Barcelona, won Madrid, and like the hype train was full on force till it hit the Alexander Zverev tower in the quarterfinal of the French Open. Right? So one of the things that Alexander Zverev did really well in that quarterfinal, I told this before the match that Zverev would beat Alcaraz. The reason is Zverev had been like telling in the media that he was getting fed up of how, I mean, he wasn't saying it directly, but you could read between the lines and see that Zverev was like super pissed off with how the media were hyping Alcaraz while forgetting people, established players like Zverev, Tsitsipas, and Medvedev, right? So other than the big two themselves, but so Alcaraz, what he has going for him is that the hype train has slowed down. The expectations are lower this time because it's for some reason, even though he himself is not a clay court specialist, because he's called the baby Rafa, everybody expects him to play well on clay courts. And because of having this association with the Nadal, nobody expects him to do as great on grass. But I believe if you look closely, Alcaraz's game is actually more suited to grass than to right. He has a big forehand. He has great movement, which will not be the same in grass, maybe because with the slippery conditions. But he's a world class player. He's going to adapt his movement. He's 19 years old. He's strong as an ox. He's got a backhand. He's got a forehand. He's got a great serve. His temperament. Everyone says is high school because they want to compare it to Nadal. But when you look closely, his temperament does have some differences to Nadal. He keeps fist pumping after every point, looking at his box. It's not the same as Rafa. Just because he uses a Babolat arrow and he's from Spain, you can't like just tag the guy as Rafa. I think Alcaraz's strengths are going to be amplified in grass, but and his absolute variety in his game with his slice and everything. But the only thing that's making me put him below the people I put him is because it's his first Wimbledon. He's not. If he goes out and wins his, I mean, it's not his first Wimbledon, but like as a major contender, right? So after his breakthrough year, it's his first Wimbledon. If he goes out and wins Wimbledon straight away, that's amazing. Like nothing like it, right? Like, but what people often forget is before there's a champion, there's a failure always, right? Like so, before you win, you gotta fail first. Is at least how it works for most people, except if you're named Rafael Nadal. Djokovic made so many finals before he started dominating the way he did. It took him a good while to understand the intricacies of playing a 5 set match, intricacies of playing a 5 set match on grass, having a heartbreaking loss, recovering from it, etc., etc. So I believe just in terms of experience and in terms of the things that have happened to him, Alcaraz is not quite ready to be Wimbledon champion yet. That's kind of why I put him at four, even though I believe his game on a raw basis, just his age, his game, his movement, everything is good enough. That's why he's a contender, right? Like so, he's got it all, right? With respect to his draw, that's another reason that I'm not put him to as a favorite to win Wimbledon. His draw is kind of hard. Straight away, you start with Jan Lennart Struff. Jan Lennart Struff has been Djokovic fodder for a lot of time, but Jan Lennart Struff is a very solid player. He's more like a third round guy. You don't want to be playing Struff in your first round. But then again, if you're Carlos Alcaraz, you really don't care. But Struff is not an ideal first round. It's not like the people that Tsitsipas and Nadal are facing in the first round to the extent that you don't even know their name, right? Yeah, Jan Lennart is somebody everybody knows. In the second round, he's going to play Fabio Fognini. Fognini is another temperamental player. Fognini is an extremely gifted player. If he gets going, Fognini could cause some real damage. He's not probably going to beat Alcaraz because Fognini is pretty old, but Fognini is going to be one of those players who causes Alcaraz a lot of trouble. The next player he's playing is Ate. Ate has been in great form recently. He reached some final or won something quite recently on grass. He's a very good player. He's seeded number 32. He just got his seeding for this event. He's going to be a tough opponent for sure. And the fourth round, the challenges keep coming. It's Yannick Sinner. Yannick Sinner, as we know, is supposed to be the Djokovic for Alcaraz's Nadal. Yannick Sinner hasn't broken through as much as Carlos Alcaraz has yet, but Yannick Sinner is very consistent. He's been plagued by injuries this season, Yannick Sinner. So if he doesn't make the fourth round, Alcaraz is probably going to easier fourth round. But at the same time, it's going to be a tricky match against Yannick Sinner. And then real challenges start coming. Novak Djokovic. Novak Djokovic is self-explanatory. Being in the same quarter as the world number one. I mean, not the world number one, but like the number one seed is not going to be ideal. Playing Casper. One guy I didn't mention so far is Casper Ruud. He's seeded third for this event, but grass is not his great surface. I'm completely writing Casper Ruud off. I think he'll be upset very early on, and the draw will open up. But if he does, as per seeding, if he does make to the final, semifinal, then he'll run into Carlos Alcaraz or Novak Djokovic. So it's going to be lights out there. And Alcaraz could face Hurkacz in the semifinal. Hurkacz is actually Alcaraz has played Hurkacz exactly once, and he's won against Hurkacz. He has better weapons than Hurkacz, but Hurkacz has more experience on grass. So between Alcaraz and Hurkacz, it could be a close match. And the final, if he does cross all these hurdles, he's going to face Nadal, Tsitsipas, or Berrettini. And that's going to be a tough match as well. So if you just look at this draw, this is the toughest draw that I've seen in a while for out of all the contenders. That combined with his inexperience in grass, these are the things that are going to hold back Carlos Alcaraz. He will be a Wimbledon champion one day, maybe, but I don't think it's going to be this year. Now moving up our list of contenders, I have actually put Hubert Hurkacz ahead of Carlos Alcaraz, Tsitsipas, and Nadal. This is going to be this is going to be super surprising to most people, but Hubert Hurkacz is a very very good grass court player. He bageled Roger Federer in Wimbledon, right? So he just completely wiped Daniil Medvedev out of the court in in uh, in Halle, right? Like it's not an easy tournament to win Halle, right? It's Hurkacz he's a grass court specialist. That's all I can say with respect to him. Um, this is what you need to do when you're a tennis fan. You need to separate out the surfaces rationally. If you separate out the clay court season, people are not going to be thinking of Hurkacz heading into Wimbledon. But for me, this guy is the guy to watch out for ahead of the grass court season. Given what he's done like recently in the grass court season, plus the fact he reached the semifinal, losing out to Berrettini last year, uh, I would say that Hubie Hurkacz is the number three favorite to win Wimbledon. He has he has a very tough first two rounds against Davidovich Fokina and Jerry Wesley. Jerry Wesley is another one of those guys like Sam Querrey who just appear during Wimbledon season and then play excellently. Davidovich Fokina would be a major threat if not for the fact that ADF's got an erratic serve, and that's going to be working in Hubie's favor. Um, Adrian Manarino and Tommy Paul are. as tough as third rounds can get. Manarino is the most annoying player in the entirety of tennis. He has so many good angles. He's a lefty. He has like all these little angles. He doesn't play like traditional tennis. He plays with all sorts of tricks on grass. It could get really ugly with all the low bouncing balls, the high angles, and etc. etc. Uh, Cam Norrie, another Manarino 2.0. And he'll be playing on his home turf. He'll be having the crowd behind him. Hurkacz is going to. Nari lost out to Federer last year in the third round, so I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be such an easy match. But Hurkacz versus Nari seems like the kind of Indian Wells semifinal that you would see. Uh, but I would back Hubert Hurkacz to win that. Followed by that, he's got Pablo Carreno Busta, David Goffin, or Casper Ruud, depending on the draw. Carreno Busta has been like excellent in grass recently. I believe I caught some of his Halle run, Halle or Queens, I can't quite remember. Uh, David Goffin, if just by pure talent, David Goffin is going to be a contender. And Casper Ruud, as we have talked about before, is not a grass court specialist, but holds he should be the quarterfinalist. But I believe that Hurkacz has the edge over all of them. Maybe peak Carreno Busta would have been like a better player than Hurkacz, but Hurkacz right now he's playing like he's got the serve, he's got the forehand, he's got the backhand, he's got the variety, he has the drop shots, he's an excellent volleyer. I would back Hurkacz to go through there as well. And in the semifinal against Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic, depending on who it is, I would back Hurkacz, right? So there could be many scenarios. With tennis, it's never that linear. We could see it could be Djokovic, but Djokovic coming after a grueling quarterfinal with Alcaraz, right? Or Alcaraz coming after a grueling quarterfinal with Novak Djokovic. It could be completely exhausted Novak Djokovic or Alcaraz going up against a really fresh Hurkacz, right, on grass. It could be like an injured Novak Djokovic going up against Carlos Alcaraz because Djokovic has been like lacking match practice the entire year. You never know what could happen. Hurkacz could sneak through against these two as well. I mean, if you've been watching Hubie Hurkacz recently, you know what I'm talking about. And finally, in the final, he's going to face Berrettini, Nadal, or Tsitsipas. Um, the one thing that is working against Hurkacz is he has a terrible head-to-head against all these players. Like against Hurkacz, he has like against he has like 1-1, but he lost their Wimbledon semi-final last year. Against Djokovic, he's 0-4. Against Tsitsipas, he's 2-6. Against Alcaraz, he's 0-1. Against Nadal, he's never played. So it's a very long shot. It just feels a bit too long of a shot for Hurkacz to win Wimbledon, but I would definitely place him right up there in the semifinal. Number two for me is this guy Matteo Berrettini. I was debating on putting the picture of him holding the Queen's Trophy versus him holding the Wimbledon Runners-Up Trophy, and I went with the Wimbledon Runners-Up Trophy because that's worth like 1,000 points, whereas the Queen's win is worth 500 points. Two-time defending Queen's champion, returning from injury after Rolex, has completely dominated the grass court season. Has won Stuttgart, beating Andy Murray in the final. Has won Queens. Has defended his Queen's title successfully. This man is in red hot form. Matteo Berrettini last year only lost to Novak Djokovic in the majors, like at least the last three majors that he's played. He's just been so unlucky to run into either Nadal or Djokovic. Last four majors that he's played. Berrettini simply is as solid as it gets, especially on grass with his big serve, big forehand. Uh, People always say that Berrettini's backhand sucks, but you don't get to world number five or whatever he is without having a great backhand as well. It's not the Djokovic backhand, it's not the Zverev backhand, but at the same time, Berrettini on grass is a different beast altogether. His serve alone is worth like 6 games in a set. And he's going to be rolling through. Especially look at his draw. Christopher Garin, it would be a very tough first round on clay. On grass, he's against Matteo Berrettini, no chance. Husler, I don't even know who he is. No disrespect to him, but Matteo Berrettini is probably going to roll over him. Jensen Brooksby has been in terrible form recently. If he does make it to the third round per the seeding, he's going to get wiped out by Berrettini, but I expect Kukushkin to make it through. Kukushkin is a solid player who's one of those people who just arrives in one Grand Slam, makes a slightly deep run, makes money, goes home. Berrettini is going to roll over him. Diego Schwartzman, again, if he does make it through that far to the fourth round, Berrettini is going to have such an easy time. This is, of all the draws I've seen so far, this guy has the most straightforward draw. He's most informed, Matteo Berrettini. Just watch out for this. Stefanos Tsitsipas on grass. If he does face Stefanos on grass, I would say that Berrettini and Tsitsipas are about evenly matched, especially on grass. With Tsitsipas having the edge because of Tsitsipas just he's a more talented player, Stefanos Tsitsipas, right, than Berrettini. But Berrettini makes up for it in his mental side of things, right? Berrettini is never flustered, even when he's losing. He's so classy. At the worst, he just looks up at his box and says a couple of swear words in Italian, but like, hey, who doesn't, right? Um, so out of all of them, I would say that this guy has he might get through. He might get through, right? In the semifinal, if he faces Nadal, unfortunately for Berrettini, I'm backing Nadal. But for me, as I've already mentioned, Cilic is going to probably like upset the cards, and like or Felix or Fritz, one of them is going to get to Nadal. If they do get to Nadal, and it's Cilic, Felix, or Felix Auger-Aliassime, or Taylor Fritz against Berrettini, you have to back Berrettini. And then comes the final. In the final, he's going to play either Novak Djokovic, Hubert Hurkacz, or Carlos Alcaraz. Out of all of them, I would say that he has the least chance against Djokovic because Djokovic knows exactly how to beat him. Hubie Hurkacz, you would think that Hubie Hurkacz is the favorite against Berrettini, but when they faced in Wimbledon last time, Berrettini completely obliterated Hurkacz. So he does have the mental edge there, and he's been in a Wimbledon final before, so he's going to have that edge over both Hurkacz and Alcaraz. And if Alcaraz does make it that, I would say Alcaraz is the favorite against Berrettini. But then again, Matteo Berrettini, everybody always underestimates this guy. He only loses to Nadal or Djokovic in the majors, right? I would say Matteo Berrettini is a firm second favorite. This is taking out all emotion out of it. And of course, the favorite is the man himself, the two-time, two-time, 2018, 19, 21, three-time defending Wimbledon champion, the best of them all, the top seed, if not for politics, the top seed, um, the legend himself, Novak Djokovic, right? So he is of course any sane man's favorite to win Wimbledon. His draw looks interesting. Kwanzu, Kokinakis, Kekmanovic, who's his countryman, Bashilashvili or Riley Opelka in the fourth round. It's all straightforward till then. It's what you would expect to see in a Grand Slam. They're not pushovers by any stretch of the imagination, but you could see Novak like especially dropping a set against Kekmanovic, against Kokinakis, Bashilashvili, or against Opelka. You could see Novak like dropping a couple of sets there in that four matches, but over 5 sets, when you're Novak Djokovic in Wimbledon, you get through these 4 rounds. Then comes Carlos Alcaraz. This is the big unknown. They've played just once, their epic match in Madrid. Djokovic seemed to have the upper hand, but Alcaraz then wrestled his momentum and completely destroyed Djokovic in the tiebreak in the third set, if I'm not wrong. Uh, Between Djokovic and Alcaraz and Grass, you have to go with Djokovic in terms of the experience. But depending on how long this match goes, I don't know if he would be fresh enough to play a fresh Hubie Hurkacz, right? So this is where it gets interesting. See, if upsets were easy to predict, they wouldn't be called upsets. So you could easily see Hurkacz versus Djokovic, depending on how Novak's physical form is. Uh, him easily stumbling to Hurkacz or Rude, right? And in the final, if he faces Nadal, Tsitsipas, or Novak is a massive favorite. You have to back Novak against all three of them. He's got a massive mental edge over Tsitsipas and Berrettini. Um, Also, great technical edge because he slices his backhand so well to Tsitsipas and Berrettini, forcing them to get low. Against Nadal, Nadal has not beaten Djokovic outside clay since, I don't know, like for eternity. I think it's 2014, I believe is the stat. I'm not really sure. Don't quote me on that. But you have to back him against Rafael Nadal as well, especially given Rafa's physical condition. That said, Djokovic himself has had a market decline in physical condition over the years. So it's very hard to predict for me, um, because especially because, as I said, as a seasoned tennis watcher, you should kind of get used to the fact that hey, before the tournament, like predicting Djokovic seems like a no-brainer, but there are some other subtle factors to it. His overall physical condition, I'm still not satisfied. I'm just not quite there yet. I just feel that there's something off about him. But then again, he won Wimbledon with something off about him the entire Wimbledon. He was looking like super anemic the entire last Wimbledon, and he won. But in the U.S. Open, of course, like Daniel Medvedev blew him out because Daniel Medvedev didn't have any time for that time for Djokovic who was anemic, right? So out of all of these, Novak is the favorite. But then there are some upsets that we want to look out for. First of all, let's call out the missing star power. Roger Federer, the nine-time, eight-time Wimbledon champion, is not playing. Uh, Daniil Medvedev, the world number one, is not playing due to political reasons. Andrei Rublev is not playing. Alexander Zverev is not playing due to injury. There's just so much star power missing right now. That's obviously a big problem. Yeah, big server upsetting Nadal earlier. This is something that I've already called. I'm going to go for either Marin Cilic or Sam Querrey, giving Nadal a lot of trouble, and Cilic potentially knocking Nadal out. The next question is, how is Nadal's foot going to hold up? It's a question up in the air. They say that he went through the numbing procedure to calm the middle nerve in his ankle, but we don't know how Nadal's foot is going to hold up, especially on grass with the slippery conditions and so on. Novak Djokovic, his fitness is not as great as it was. It's not about fitness; it's his match practice, right? This entire year, he's been so physically and emotionally exhausted by all that's going on. And I don't know if Djokovic is quite there to win a Grand Slam yet. But then again, writing off Novak Djokovic is a fool's errand. But it's just something to think about. Then I didn't talk about this guy, but there's this fairy tale of this guy, Tim van Rijthoven. Van Rijthoven reached the reached he won the event in Netherlands, the grass court event, beating Daniil Medvedev in the final. He was a qualifier slash unseeded. It was a fairy tale run. Anybody who watched that would have been super warmed in the heart. And this guy got a wild card into Wimbledon as a result. He didn't need to do the qualies. He's got a very difficult draw though. Delbon first round is already hard, but if he beats him, he's going to face Opelka. And then I believe that, beating Delbonis, Opelka, and Basilashvili back to back to back is too much to ask for him. I think he will fall to, if not Opelka, he'll definitely fall to Basilashvili. Then there's this fourth round massive matchup that I'm excited for, which is Carlos Alcaraz against Yannick Sinner. I believe that this is the new gen Nadal Djokovic, even though Yannick Sinner still needs to add a gear to his game, like add his serve, add more variety to be compared to Novak. But he's got the temperament for it. If Yannick Sinner makes it through physically without injuries to the fourth round, Alcaraz versus Sinner in the fourth round will be such a thriller to look forward to. And finally, Matteo Berrettini's return. Matteo Berrettini's return is something that people are sleeping on. That's what people do. They don't see things ahead of time. But as a seasoned sports watcher, the grass court season is completely different from the clay court season. Berrettini was a forgotten man because he didn't play in the clay court, but in the grass court season, he's been on fire. And Matteo Berrettini is going to be such a contender when he makes a run. Finally, we have reached my pick, right? So, despite my ranking of the most likely contenders, there's this other thing I call gut feeling. In gut feeling, what I believe is going to happen this year is, you heard it here first, Matteo Berrettini is going to win Wimbledon 2022. Is my bold pick for this year. The reason is, with the other contenders, there's always that little thing to look out for. Berrettini does have like a worse head to head against most of the other contenders, but I believe that he might not have to face any of the other contenders along the way, right? So with Djokovic, if he faces Djokovic or Tsitsipas or Alcaraz straight one on one, it's going to be very hard for Berrettini. But I believe that there is a reason to doubt each of their credentials as well. Like for example, Djokovic's physical stamina slash match fitness is in question, even though he's a match favorite. Nadal, we've already talked about it. If he does face Berrettini, I believe Nadal would beat Berrettini, but Nadal getting to the final is going to be a long shot. Uh, Hubert Hurkacz, you would think that has the game to beat Berrettini, has the physique to beat Berrettini, but then again, when they face each other, Berrettini has the mental edge. Alcaraz would be in his first ever Wimbledon run, deep run. Berrettini's been there before, just the experience shades it for me. And with Tsitsipas, again, like I don't know if Stefanos on grass is necessarily better than Berrettini on grass. So I'm going to go ahead and clip this, do whatever. I'm going to say that Matteo Berrettini will be the Wimbledon champion of 2022. We're going to come back 1 week later and see how off I was, and 2 weeks later, and then see how off I was as well. Till then, take care. Let's see if my predictions hold up. And love the green grass. And enjoy Wimbledon. Thank you.